Can you hear me? Can you hear Adam? Can you hear Klein? We'll see. Welcome to the Agents of Fandom podcast. Welcome to Level 7. Thank you so much for tuning in, everyone. I'm hoping you can see me and you can hear me. Ruben's power went out about right before we were supposed to go live, and I just decided to try and make this work. And so far, I mean, not so far so good, but I think we finally figured it out. We'll see. Time to talk Ahsoka episodes 1 and 2 with my great buddy, head of walking down editorial here right now at the Agents of Fandom. Adam, how you doing?
I'm doing good. I had this big, extravagant intro planned to give to start off this podcast, and it seems like what was supposed to be an hour and a half ago. Now I'm so frazzled, but I'm glad we got our technical difficulties ironed out, and we were actually able to go live and have a nice chat join us. So I'm excited. I'm excited to be here and talk about the show with you guys, and hopefully kick off what will be a very fun next 6 weeks or so talking about this show.
Exactly. I've been anticipating this one for a very long time. I'm frazzled as well. I had a whole intro for Klein planned, and I just don't even have it in front of me anymore because I was too busy trying to get this all up. So, Klein, I'm going to steal what our good man here, Brandon Moore, put in chat. That Klein is one of the nicest people on all of Twitter. So glad he's on today's show. Tell us a nice little intro of you before we dive into Ahsoka. Where do the people on the Twitter sphere know you from?
Well, thank you guys so much for having me. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you so much, Brandon. You're amazing, and it's called X now, guys. We X, we don't tweet. It's what we do. You can find me everywhere. I spend way too much time on Twitter. That's kind of what I do. But I spend my days over at thedirect.com, where I'm the senior editor, one of the senior editors over there, covering all sorts of fun stuff like Ahsoka, of course, Star Wars, DC, Marvel, and everything here, there, and everywhere. Spent a lot of time today talking about One Piece, just out of the blue for some weird reason. Excited for that series. But yeah, I'm so happy to be here. Thank you guys so much. Let's get into it. I'm Ahsoka'd to be here.
Ooh, we always appreciate a good pun here on the Agents of Fandom podcast. Spoiler warning for those who have not seen episode 1 and 2 of Ahsoka. Come back when you have. If you haven't, you can see our if you're listening live on Twitch, you can see our previously recorded episode, our part 2 of our Ahsoka primer with our Star Wars Rebels draft. That was last week. You can find it up on YouTube and on the podcast feeds. We also have another Ahsoka primer focused more on the character herself, Ahsoka, and the antagonist of the next chapter of Star Wars, Grand Admiral Thrawn, with Thomas Carter Rochester. So make sure you check both of those out on YouTube. Hit the like button, subscribe, hit that little notification bell. But it's time to dive into episodes 1 and 2 themselves. Adam, we've been waiting to talk about this for so long. We've seen it for a while now. This has been such a highly anticipated show for both of us. You just finished through Rebels. I've seen it through a couple times, and I've just been waiting so excitedly for this one. What did you think of the first 2 episodes?
Well, yeah, like you said, we have been waiting a long time, and I feel like we say that at the start of each new Disney Plus series because we get it a week and a half early, and then we can't talk about it, except for you and Layla, who were able to talk about it, writing a couple of awesome spoiler-filled and spoiler-free reviews up on agentsofandom.com. Everybody go check those out. Quick early plug, get that out of the way. But as far as the first 2 episodes, I really, really enjoyed it. I will say the first episode was paced a little bit slow for me. Not to say I didn't enjoy it. Like, I still had a great time with it, but it was paced a little bit slow. And then I think the second episode really kind of cranked things up. I enjoyed that one a lot more. The only qualms that I would give, aside from the pacing a little bit, are I feel like this version of Ahsoka, granted we haven't seen a lot of her, but it doesn't seem very much like a version that we're familiar with. Especially in some of her, Garrett and I were talking about this yesterday. Some of how she's treating Sabine is seems a little bit out of character to me. Now I know I think as an audience we're supposed to assume that she's been kind of going through some things in terms of like everything that happened, during the rise of the Empire and all that kind of stuff. But personally, I feel like that really shouldn't be left up to the audience to kind of assume, be like, well, she's acting out of the ordinary, but it's because of this. Like, hopefully we get some explanation for that down the road. But she is acting a little bit out of character in terms of, I just feel like she's being a little bit harsh on Sabine, and I kind of want her to be a little more reasonable. But I'm sure I don't want to get ahead of myself because there very well may be reason about this. We don't know what happened the first time they got into it and got into all the training and stuff. But overall, I'm enjoying it. Expectations wise, I'm going to try to reserve too much on that until I've seen the full series. But I couldn't be more excited and happy after watching. But I'm glad they did a 2-episode premiere too. I think they might would have lost some people if they just did one, but then they really bring it around with 2. And they leave it kind of open-ended, but with so many different directions they can go. I really enjoyed it, and I'm so excited to see where they go from here. They got a lot of different ways they can take this.
And with the both of the first 2 episodes, the pacing I found of the first one was maybe just a little bit slow, but it's like you said, releasing 2 of them together, and additionally having that first one be over an hour long really helped because it gave some important backstory to the people who haven't seen Rebels, and it really just gave us those who have those moments to just put shivers down your spines, get to hear these characters, see these characters in live action for the first time. Klein, what did you think of the first 2 episodes of Ahsoka? Did it meet your expectations?
I mean, I didn't really know what to think coming into the series, so my expectations were kind of here, there, and everywhere. They could have, they varied by the hour. It felt like, but I'm a Rebels guy. I personally, Clone Wars for me is my Ahsoka touchstone. Like Ahsoka's my favorite Star Wars character of all time. Clone Wars is probably it's 1 or 2 of my favorite Star Wars things ever made. And to get more of her here, like for her to finally get her thing, that it's her name, it is Ahsoka, was just incredibly cool, and I loved it. I ate this up. This is so Dave Filoni for me, which for some people who maybe aren't as well versed in the whole animated sphere, like these 2 episodes felt very much like it's Star Wars Rebels. Like the way it's written, the way it's paced, I wouldn't call the first episode slow. I would call it deliberate. And there are Star Wars Rebels episodes that are very deliberate. And it's like, we are just laying the breadcrumbs. And then in 3 weeks from now, we'll all be going, oh my God, I'm so happy they started slow because our minds are all over the walls. I really liked it. I think that this is really the successor to Rebels that everybody who loves that series wanted. I haven't seen really anyone who loved Rebels not vibe with this. I really did. I really liked it. It's kind of what I wish Obi-Wan was more of for the prequels. Obi-Wan had moments that were like, yes, like this is the epilogue I wanted. And here we are. We're getting this epilogue to this story that people hold so dear. And it's just made with so much love. You can tell that Dave Filoni is like, he is in his bag here. This is what he loves to do. This is what he's been working towards for years and years and years. And he's finally doing it. He's making those touchstones. We get these little moments throughout the first 2 episodes that as Rebels fans, I'm just sitting there like just sobbing. Like I like just openly crying. But yeah, I really liked it. I'm excited to see where this series goes. If this is the foundation for which the series will be built upon, I'm more than happy.
This is why we brought our guy Klein on, and this was a long time coming. I've been wanting to do it for a while, and so I'm happy we finally got to make it happen with Ahsoka, because Ahsoka Stan, Rebel Stan. We had Thomas Carter Rochester, co-host of the Reckless Rebels podcast, on a couple weeks ago, the Reckless Rebellion, and guess who the co-host is? It's our guy Klein right here. Not only does he co-host that, but he is a senior editor at The Direct. Can you tell that I finally have my notes in front of me after doing producer mode? And also, most importantly, my fellow Canadian here with me. We got Adam as the minority American on the show right now. Feels good to have the Canadians outpacing the Americans on the show right now. But I agree. I love this Ahsoka episode so much. I do kind of feel that, like, touching on something both of you said in terms of Rosario Dawson as Ahsoka, I do kind of feel like maybe there's something missing for me still. Now that could be a writing thing. That could be like you mentioned, Klein, like a deliberate choice of she is holding back right now. There is some tension between Sabine and Ahsoka that's causing her to maybe move with a little less compassion than we're used to it being. And I'm just missing a little bit of that light that Ahsoka brings, that Ashley Eckstein does so wonderfully with her voice acting, that is so wonderful in the animation. I feel like I'm still waiting for a bit more of that in Ahsoka, but I feel similarly to the start of Obi-Wan, It's because Ahsoka's kind of in a dark place right now. She's just going from spot to spot. Oh, the war is done, but no, the war is not done. Now I'm looking for Thrawn. And it kind of feels like she's looking for a purpose now that this quote unquote war is done. And I don't necessarily think she's in as great of a place mentally as we've seen Ahsoka be in the past. The compassionate, the fearless Ahsoka. And so I'm not necessarily sure if that's a Rosario Dawson thing or if that's a writing thing. That's a deliberate choice of we are going to see more of that in the future here. But I think that remains to be seen. We get the return of the Rebels. Sabine Wren is back. Hera Syndulla is back. And our guy Chop is back. We get to see throughout these first 2 episodes the whole team on the murals, and it, of course, meaning so much to Sabine. We get to see Ezra in the little video format. I thought it was hilarious when he said that, Sabine, you know, I've always thought of you like a sister. Bullshit. Anyone who has people may buy that if you haven't seen Rebels, but anyone who has seen Rebels knows bullshit. Ezra has loved Sabine since day one, and Sabine had been warming up as the series come on. But Adam, what did you think about the debut of Hera Syndulla and Sabine Wren in live action?
Oh, it was great to see all of them. And one thing I think particularly, I know I have my qualms with Ahsoka, but the rest of them are just doing an incredible job nailing their live action counterparts. Like, there's not anybody, and I was kind of going in thinking like, well, I wonder if anybody was told or just kind of like premeditated, decided like, I'm going to just put my own kind of spin on this. Like, yeah, I've seen it, but I'm going to, no, it's like, it seems like they thoroughly watched Rebels and kind of like understood the assignment and knew going in exactly what they wanted to do. And they've nailed it. And I know there's been some talk about Hera's look, that she doesn't quite like looks wise embody. I think maybe that's just because of the goggles and the headpiece and all that stuff. But I think that's one of those characters similar to like the Grand Inquisitor from Obi-Wan. It's a little bit hard to bring that kind of with the prosthetics and stuff into live action while also allowing like Mary Elizabeth Winstead room to act and do all the things that she's incredible at. So I could not, in this aspect, I could not be any happier with where we're at. And I can't wait to see more from all of them and especially get to meet Ezra and stuff, because they really seem like they're paying respect to the source material with this in terms of like respecting their characters.
They are giving. I was one of the people that I was like, maybe it's the eyes. I don't know. Hera looks a little odd, but they're giving Mary Elizabeth Winstead room to act, and she's crushing it. She is giving Hera perfectly. Like, that is Hera Syndulla. Klein, what did you think about those two? We haven't gotten to see much Ezra yet. We haven't gotten to see much Chop yet, even. We got to see more in episode 2, but still not a ton. What did you think about Hera and Sabine?
I mean, Sabine particularly. Natasha Louis Bordizzo, I think that's how we pronounce her name. That's Sabine. Like, that, she is as much Sabine as Sabine was in Star Wars Rebels. If you had told me, like, yes, it's a different voice, but like, that character it's her. When she showed up on screen, that's the first time I teared up watching it. When I was looking at the screeners or what have you, it means so much to me that these characters are being treated with this much respect by both the actors and the creatives behind the scenes. And it's amazing. I think Mary Elizabeth Winstead, I saw some people who maybe even her performance, they're like, that's not Hera. And there were moments where I'm like, okay, like this is very baseline Hera, but then there's moments where she's talking directly to Ahsoka or directly to Sabine, and I'm like, no, like, she is nailing it. She understood the assignment, and like, it always comes back to with Hera. Hera is the mom of the Ghost Crew. Like, that is it. She's this maternal figure. She's kind of the North Star for a lot of these people. Whenever they go wayward, they come back to her and they can figure it out, and she can pull the best out of everyone. And that's what she's doing. She's absolutely incredible as Hera. The look, I can see some of the live action, just like TV stuff in Star Wars. Budget is a huge thing for me. I hate when I can see TV budget. And there are moments in Ahsoka so far where I'm like, okay, like 95% of it, I'm there. Like, this feels like a Star Wars movie. But Hera's one of those things where it's like, okay, like, I get it. But I mean, Ahsoka looks great, so I don't know where the disconnect is there. If you go and look at Hera in Star Wars Squadrons, the video game, because she is in that, she looks very similar to what she looks like in the series, so that's almost a better comparison. But it's just coming from Rebels, where everything is so long and distorted and weirdly skinny. a lot of these translations are going to look funny. At least Ahsoka, we've seen in a few different kind of shapes and forms over the years, having appeared in Clone Wars, which was a totally different art style to Rebels. Now it's kind of like, oh, now it's just another jump. But I think for some of these characters, it is going to look a little weird, especially when they're 100% practical. Whenever Zeb shows up, I'm sure he's going to look great because he looked great in The Mandalorian, but that's a little easier because it is all CG. With her, it's okay, we've got to fit these Leiku on top of her and this headpiece and all that. But I think that performance-wise, if they're nailing the performance, I'm not going to see the seams, costuming, and makeup and all of that. And they're nailing the performance. So I'm there. I'm in.
That's a great point about the type of animation of Rebels. It's not just kind of specifically Star Wars animation to live action. Rebels specifically, like you look at the Inquisitor and how in Rebels his head is a oval, and then in live action it's a perfect circle basically, and he's much shorter and flatter.
Well, it's all based on those concepts, right? It's all
Yeah.
based on those early 1970s, before the original trilogy even came out. Those, I forget who painted them. Was it Christopher McQuarrie? No, not Christopher McQuarrie. What am I talking about? Ralph McQuarrie, someone. The Quarry's in the last name. And they painted these incredible concepts of what the Star Wars world is going to look like. And everything was like that. It was all long and skinny and oblong like it is in Rebels. And so some people, they see that in Rebels and they go, oh, like I don't like the look of this at all. The skinny lightsabers still really bug me. But it was a vision. Like, it doesn't just look that way for the sake of looking that way. Like, there was a, I don't know, not in-universe idea. It is kind of cool to, once you hear that reasoning, like, oh yeah, it's supposed to look like the concept sketches, but it's going to make a lot of these translations look quite funky.
One of the things that I love the most from this first two sets of episodes wasn't even just seeing Sabine and Hera and my Rebel crew, but getting to see Lethal in live action and seeing Sabine drive across that road, seeing Ryder Azadi in live action, played by the same actor as he is in animation, getting to see Jai Kell, formerly just a Imperial student who befriends Ezra Bridger, ends up going back to Lethal, and now the dude is a senator on Lethal. I thought that was so cool.
The glow up.
Yeah, big time glow up to see him make a quick appearance in there. That made me so happy. And then, of course, the Lothcats, however you want to call them. They are just, the translation to live action is adorable getting to see those Lothcats. I'm happy Sabine has one as a pet. To me, that kind of portrays how much she misses Ezra, because Ezra always, as we talked about a lot in our part 2 primer last week, one of his abilities within the Force is to be in tune with all different creatures, not just humans, but he can sense their feelings, he can communicate. And to see Sabine befriend a Lothcat, have one hanging out with her at her house, to me that really just kind of showed how much she's missing him right now. Adam, you were kind of fresh in seeing Lethal, having just done this rewatch. What was the translation like to you? For me, it kind of felt like a return to Lethal. This is great. But I'm interested to see what it was like, kind of almost directly translating from animation then to live action.
Well, I mean, I definitely felt that a little bit too. Obviously, I don't have the same kind of, just given that I just finished my watch of the show, I don't know, or the Rebels probably about a month ago. I don't have quite the same attachment to the characters as some people do, but it's an incredible show that I really, really love. But I didn't want to be left out or feeling like I was missing any kind of information. But for Lothal, I think the thing that I enjoyed the most was, like, one, I mean, they embody everything like perfectly. It feels exactly like Lothal, and it felt like almost getting like a warm hug, because it was like not just the glow up for like seeing it, but it's like that for 4 seasons of Rebels, the Empire is just ravaging that planet until by the end, it's like not even like, even Ezra, I believe, says like, this isn't even like my home anymore. Like it's always going to be his home, but it's like, this does not feel like home anymore because of what the Empire's done. So now to see it just like thriving and doing so incredible, that was what was just, I was like, oh, this just makes my heart feel like so incredibly happy, because we were never given a reason to like do anything but love the people on Lothal and the planet. But just like, yeah, like you were talking about seeing the bridge, or it's not, I guess it's just a big road. Always seems like a bridge to me because it's like leading from one part of town to another, even though it's technically not. But like Sabine going down that really long road and then going out to the open, seeing the Lothcats and the high wheat grass or whatever it was, like they did an incredible job with that. Like, and I know that probably wasn't easy. A lot of the budget probably had to go into touching up those shots and making that look really good. And they spared no expense with it too, because it's like we get to see everything from like the small scale stuff to all the way like a large scale shot of the town. Like they really spared no expense with it, and I thought they did an incredible job. I mean, Lothal's 10 out of 10, perfect.
Couldn't agree more. Klein, what did you think about the return to Lothal?
It was, as Adam said, it felt like being wrapped up in a warm blanket. As somebody who watched Rebels a couple of years ago for the first time, I'll be honest, I wasn't a huge Lothal fan. It just kind of, I like what happens there. I like the ideas, but in the world of Star Wars where there's all these cool planets, it was just kind of brown. But seeing it in live action, I was like, yes, like this looks really cool. It honestly reminded me of seeing oh my goodness, seeing Obi-Wan Kenobi, young Leia, why am I blanking? Planet gets blown up in A New Hope. Oh my goodness.
Oh,
Alderaan. Like
there
seeing
you go.
Alderaan for the very first time, which we got in the Obi-Wan series. And it was just like, whoa, like this is beautiful. I've always loved, one of the things I do really like about Lothal is this kind of like Emerald City-esque capital city that they have. And just the look of that was great. And it was so nice to be back there. And the shots we get that are pulled straight out of the epilogue of Rebels on Lothal, I'm like, yeah, I don't really like love this planet, but I got goosebumps right now. Like when Ahsoka's ship comes in and we're just looking at it, the landscape, and I'm just sitting there going, God, like how is this real? Like I feel so silly. It's just this one little shot, but it is a special place, I think. And I mean, look, cats, like they really, that's the one thing I was hoping that they would nail, and God, did they nail it? That thing is so darn cute. Him hissing at the map, I'm like, yes, give me more.
Yeah, they're gonna make a lot of money on merch with those little cats, I think. I'm happy you brought up Ahsoka's ship, because that's part of this show that I'm very excited to seeing. Is yeah, cool, we got the Phantom, that was sweet, but I need to see the ghost.
Give me the ghost, baby.
That's like one of those things I'm just so excited about. Is I can't wait for just that first scene where the ghost flies into action.
It's going to be a Chewie we're home moment, right? Like it's going to be they're going to come on, and everyone, all the Rebels fans of the world are going to sit there just crying like babies, and we're going to look over here and it's going to be like, wait, there's something that harkens back to Zeb, and here's Sabine's painted room, and like maybe like just we've spent so much time in that ship, and to get back there, it's going to be just like Han walking onto the Millennium Falcon in Episode 7, which some people who haven't watched Rebels are probably like clutching their pearls going, no, how? But it is like it's going to be so special, and I know Dave Filoni, I full trust in him. I know he's going to make it a moment that when they get on there, the Force theme will start playing, something will happen, and Chop will go, burr, 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 and yes, we're here.
No, Chop, I did not go through your stuff. I love the conversations with him so much. Shout out to Dave Filoni being back voicing Chop for the series. I'm going to skip a little bit ahead in the rundown, and we're going to talk about the villains, but I want to jump ahead and talk about Morgan Elsbeth first, because you brought up Zeb, and I have a connection of how a lot of this is going to tie together some of the stuff that they're doing right now. I think we're going to get an episode further down this series. I don't think it's going to be I don't think it's going to be Book of Boba Fett style, where 2 episodes of Ahsoka are going to belong to the Mandalorian. I don't think it's going to be anything like that. But I do think we're actually going to get a Din Djarin appearance in this series for an episode. And I'm going to tell you how I think it's going to happen and bring all these things together. Morgan Elsbeth, I when I first watched these screeners, I thought this was a character I was viewing for the first time. I thought when they were just kind of telling me, oh, there's this imprisoned person that Ahsoka you put in there, it took me a few seconds to click in that, like, oh, this is the person we saw in The Mandalorian when Ahsoka was hunting down Thrawn. She had the Beskar spear that eventually went to Mando. And of course, we find out throughout these 2 episodes that she has ancestry from Dathomir. She's using Force magic.
Night Sister.
A Night Sister, exactly. And that going to adds in a bunch of new potential fun connections, which we'll talk about in a bit as well. But how I think this is going to go down is it's now known, because obviously it's known within the New Republic that Morgan Elsbeth has escaped. That's why Hera is telling Ahsoka about it, and we're going to be leading towards this kind of showdown of Ahsoka, Sabine going up against our villains, the mysterious Marek, Balin Skull, Shin Hati, and Morgan Elsbeth. They're a little bit outnumbered right now. Ahsoka's pretty damn cool, but they're a little outnumbered right now. They're going to need to assemble a bit of a squad. And so, with her being a New Republic prisoner, with them finding out there's still Imperial people that are supporting them, and they're greedy, and they're still trying to send these hyperdrives to build their big machine, which again we're going to talk more about in a bit. But we obviously have Ahsoka and Sabine who are going to go there on their own, but they're not going to keep Hera out of the loop. They're going to be keeping Hera in the loop so she can come in with the Chop and with the Ghost to come and provide some backup for a full-on Rebels squad here. And I think with Zeb showing up in an episode of The Mandalorian and Mandalorian Season 3 ending with Din, Grogu being teamed up with kind of the Rangers of the New Republic and going on to do quote unquote like bounties and just or good deeds, however you want to call it, for the New Republic. I think this is going to get, we're going to see Hera going, Zeb, I need your help. We got to go capture this prisoner. And Zeb's going to be chilling at one of those bars like he was in The Mandalorian. Who else is going to be there? Din Djarin. And he's going to go, Ahsoka Tano, I helped her in the first time she caught Morgan Elsbeth. I'll go with you. And Zeb, Hera, Din, Grogu, they're all going to go and kind of be a little squad as part of that. Adam, what do you think of the theory? But then also, I'm taking the Morgan Elsbeth thing. Everybody can touch on them you want. I want to throw it to you for Balin and Shin because you had a tweet go viral about them. And then to make sure that Klein isn't late for his fantasy football draft afterwards, we're throwing it to you for Marek, and we're each just going to take one of these sets as opposed to all going in depth on all of them to save some time.
As far as that theory goes, I would love that. I'm never going to advocate for less Din Djarin and less Grogu in anything. Now, I do agree that maybe having 2 episodes of somebody else's show, having them occupy 2 entire episodes of someone else's show isn't a great idea. I hope. Yeah, right. Yeah. I hope we don't. I hope we don't see something like that again. Like I do hope we don't. Even if it is with like Zeb or something like, or some other Rebels, I hope we don't take Ahsoka out of the frame for 2 whole episodes. So I think that's a great theory, and I would love, and I do agree with you too, that they definitely have to assemble a little bit more than what they have, because like you and I were talking about, the lights were a little bit too bright for Sabine at the end of that episode because she got washed. She got made mincemeat of. So she's got a lot of training to do and not a lot of time, and she's going to need some backup. Now, as far as Balin Skull and Shin Hati, yes, that I was not expecting that tweet to do the numbers that it did. I thought more people were aware of that. That reference Garrett and I were talking about yesterday. He was actually the one that was like said something about having tweeted it and stuff. But it's really, really cool. Skull and Hati. For those of you that don't know, those of you that haven't seen the tweet, Skull and Hati are famous in Norse mythology as the 2 wolves that chase the sun and the moon. And when they catch up to it, they bring about Ragnarok, which is obviously like the destruction of the worlds. And Surtur comes along and does all this, or the destruction of Asgard, I believe. And there's a lot of really interesting connections there and kind of metaphors to draw on. I don't know if that. Now, we know Dave Filoni loves his wolves. That was one of the most common things that every person that quoted that tweet was like, fucking Dave Filoni and his wolves. That's one thing. But I think there's a lot of really interesting potential there, because it's like, are Balin Skull and Shin Hati a metaphor for like when because obviously we know they're with Morgan Elsbeth and they're looking for Thrawn. Is like Thrawn hypothetically like the Surtur in this story, in which when they finally reach up and catch him, Thrawn is going to be the one that helps bring about the end of the Rebels and all this kind of stuff. I think that's more than likely what it's going to be. I don't see, one thing that I do think is interesting, I don't see Balin Skull and Shin Hati splitting up. I don't at all in their arc envision like one of them turning against the other one for one's sake. Whether they turn away from Morgan Elsbeth or they stick with her into the end, I do feel pretty strongly that the 2 of them are going to be, entangled like side by side on the same side and everything going forward. And I hope that's the case, because just say one thing, like you said, for time's sake, I won't keep it for too long, but to say one more thing, I think oftentimes Star Wars doesn't do a great job at making their antagonist, at least of late, making their antagonist as interesting as they could. And I am absolutely enthralled by these 2. I cannot wait to learn more of them. I think this what's the right word, mercenary, this like dark side mercenary, because he's not just a pure Sith Lord rule of two. Like he's just helping them because they're paying and they're doing this. Like, and he's got his own intentions that we don't know about yet, I'm sure. But like this is just, I feel like this isn't something that we've really seen. And there's plenty of, with Merrick and stuff, there's plenty of other room for more exciting things. But as far as those two, I think they've done a great job with the metaphors and all this kind of stuff. And I can't wait to learn more about them. Those two are my MVP of the series so far.
It's such an interesting group because we have Morgan Elsbeth, who is a Night Sister. What do we know about the Night Sisters? We know that Merrin from the video games Fallen Order and Jedi Survivor is a Night Sister. We know that the Night Sisters of Dathomir have a huge connection to Darth Maul and Savage Opress from the comics, as they're from Dathomir as well. Then you see these two. We have a rogue Jedi who survives Order 66 and becomes a mercenary for hire, who still picks up a Padawan. Was this someone he found along the way after Order 66? Was this a youngling in his care, a Padawan already in his care during Order 66? We don't really know any of that yet. And then there is Merrick, who is a former Inquisitor with a mask, with a lightsaber that has red on two sides, and we know nothing else about them. Klein, what are your theories on who this is? Should we care who this is? Is this just an Inquisitor with a mask? Or is it going to be some kind of reveal that it's like, oh, it was this person?
I mean, he is the biggest question mark for me. I am fascinated with Baylan and Shin. I think that they are like, I just like you, Adam. I want to know more. What's going on with you guys? The whole like, why are you even in this? He has that whole speech where it's like, what's going to happen when he shows up? For some war, others a new beginning. Us power beyond your wildest imagination, or whatever. But Merrick to me is like, who is this dude? Where did he come from? Why does he have half of a Grand Inquisitor saber? Like, it looks just like the Grand Inquisitor's saber without the other half of the ring, which I think is neat. And I have a feeling this is going to be a reveal of some sort. I have no idea who it can be. Some names that have been thrown around. I've seen some people say Ezra, which I'm sorry,
Whoa!
it is not Ezra Bridger. He would never. But there are a few names that do interest me.
You hear that, Damon? Never. It's not
going
Ezra
to
Bridger.
happen.
He's still with Thrawn. How could he
He is
be
still with
here?
Thrawn.
They're in
They're
another
vibing.
galaxy.
There are a couple names that have intrigued me a little bit. Grand Inquisitor is one of them, which I don't know if we need to do that again. I do like the Grand Inquisitor, but he is very mwahaha bad guy. The one name, though, you want to talk video games, guys. We can talk video games. There's one name that has been thrown around that if it happened, I would die.
There's no way it can be
Star
Starkiller.
Killer is the
Don't.
one.
Oh no.
There's no way it can be Starkiller.
I'm jumping through my TV with excitement if that's the case.
I'm sorry.
Oh.
There's one of the credits of episode 2, additional voices. Sam Witwer is listed. He is there. Why? I don't know.
Because it's going to be voicing Maul.
It's not Maul. There is less of a chance it's Maul.
It's going to be a flashback or something, or a voice. It's going to be Sam Witwer's voice.
But he's in the credits for episode 2.
Oh man!
I'm just saying. I'm just putting it out there. You know, I'm a big fan of lighting fires and walking out of the room. So that's what I'm doing here. I'm just saying, if it is Starkiller, I don't know if they could call him Starkiller because I mean maybe that's what Starkiller Base is named after. You know what? It's Starkiller. It's happening.
It would just have to. So for those who don't know, Adam, hit us with the Starkiller video game background.
Okay, so it's been a while since I played once. I haven't even considered that. I'm not good at watching the credits and stuff. So I mean, 100,000 out of 10, Klein. That's an absolutely incredible theory. Now, Stark, from the little bit that I remember, I know he's
from
like,
what game? For those who don't know,
well, he's from
Force
the
Unleashed.
The games are from the Force Unleashed, and he also got a sequel. But like, in the Force Unleashed games, nothing that he does is canon because he literally is like Darth Vader's apprentice, and he goes around just absolutely slaughtering
what
Jedi.
Better person to go up against Ahsoka than Darth Vader's apprentice, another one of Darth Vader's former apprentices.
If we like do this awesome retcon of the story and bring him in as like, I don't know.
They've done stuff like Thrawn was one of those. Thrawn was Legends, and then they brought him into the canon universe and recontextualized him. It would not, if Dave Filoni is a Star Wars nut, if it was Starkiller, it would not, it would surprise me. I'm not going to say it wouldn't surprise me, but it wouldn't be. It's not the furthest thing out there. Like Dave Filoni obviously knows who Starkiller is, and he loves doing stuff like this. Like this is where this man gets hit. Like he loves this stuff. So I don't know. Like you think of those parallels. Dave Filoni loves to work with these metaphors and parallels. Loves his wolves, all that. But like one apprentice against another apprentice.
I'm just saying, Starkiller wouldn't need a droid to help him fight Ahsoka. He would just blow up that entire damn planet after he was done with it.
Pull a Star Destroyer out of the sky and crumple an ATSD to a ball.
Definitely, like, that's a character that if they ever bring into canon, one of the most badass characters in all of Star Wars extended canon. But, yeah, that's a character that they're going to have to do some adaptation for because... probably the most overpowered character in all of Star Wars.
Easily.
I want to throw a couple other theories at you. Speaking of Darth Maul and why maybe we'd see some Sam Witwer, because maybe it's Kira. Because while we don't have much of a... We don't think Kira's Force sensitive, but we know Kira was working for Darth Maul, a potential connection to a Night Sister.
We have no indication she isn't, though, as well. I mean...
Exactly. No indication she isn't. Yeah. But also, we don't... I guess I was going to say we don't have indication that Morak is super Force sensitive, but we do. We for sure saw a lot of that.
He definitely does the boomerang with the lightsaber. I think this dude's got the Force.
But a couple of things specifically... we have the Corellium mention, which is, of course, where Han Solo is from, and we got that little
Millennium Falcon.
We got that little origin, so that kind of gives back to it. But then also the Night Sister connection with Darth Maul. You never know. Crimson Dawn, Night Sister, Kira. Here's who I actually think it is, though. That's my B theory. That's just the B-side theory. A-side theory... You look on Wikipedia, all we really know about this character is that they're a former Inquisitor, and now they're likely a mercenary for hire. It's friggin' Reva! She killed the Grand Inquisitor, took his lightsaber, and it's Reva now with a mask and is a mercenary for hire. She wears a mask because she doesn't want people to know who she is. It's Reva.
I don't hate it. I'm not...
Yeah.
I don't love it, but I'm also not... upset by it. I personally, as much as that we've made about the Marak thing, I hope Baylan and Shin are the I want to hate them. I want them to be the primary antagonist. This third person can be there and it can be a cool reveal or whatever, but I do not want to take the focus away from these two because I think that what they've set up at least is so strong, and I would hate for them to push that aside for some fan service, if Reva's fan service.
I've got one. Let me throw one more. This is in no way actually going to be the case. I'm going to throw it at you. I'm going to throw it at you guys anyway. It's Cal Kestis. Merritt.
Oh my God, my boy.
Because what happens at the end of Jedi Survivor? Cal is literally actively being pulled towards the dark side. What also happens? Darth Vader kills his former master. Marin is the only thing holding him back right now. What if something happens to Marin in the original trilogy and then Vader and them got a hold of him? We've already seen Cal use the dark side.
Night Sister gets a hold of him because he's grieving. He's grieving. Yeah.
I think there's a lot. I don't think that's going to be the case, but there's interesting potential there.
Every single podcast I do about live action TV in Star Wars. I bring up Cal. It's there's a reason they casted Cameron Monaghan for this role, not just because he was going to do the motion capture. This man will show up in Star Wars somewhere, and I will keep saying it's going to happen. I said it in Obi-Wan. I said it in Andor. I will keep saying it until it happens. And I don't know if I like knowing the fate of him, knowing that we're getting one more game is my only thing. But who knows? Star Wars has done crazier things.
It's a perfect transition into kind of the next side of these things because it's revealed in this episode that Thrawn and Ezra are where? In another galaxy entirely. It's not somewhere hidden in the galaxy. It's in another galaxy entirely. And to me, that's always been the way that you can bring Cal Kestis into any time. You can bring him into... he can be a member of Rey's new Jedi Order in that movie that they do way in the future. If he was hanging out in another galaxy and then he comes back and, well, the way time works is it's a different year here than it is
World
there.
between
They can make
worlds,
it work.
man.
Yeah, exactly. They can 100% make that work. And I think that's going to be how he was hanging out in another galaxy, Tanalor, or wherever the hell you want to be. And that's how they're going to bring in and just have him be Cameron Monaghan, not super aged up, just looking like the Cal that we know and love. I really did find that in all of these map to different galaxy stuff that we were trying to figure out throughout these 2 episodes, the temples, there were such big Jedi Fallen Order and Jedi Survivor vibes in these first 2 episodes with all the different maps, and just like from the way Ahsoka had to unlock the map right at the beginning of the first episode. Did that not look exactly just like you're sitting in a temple, you have no idea what the fuck you're supposed to do, you're force moving these large balls waiting for them to finally light up and get in a proper array of light from a window. It felt so like straight from the video games with her trying to unlock that map. I've been waiting for Star Wars to do this for such a long time. We see in the credits a long time, the pre-thing, a long time ago in a galaxy far away. But what about the other fucking galaxies? There's so many galaxies in the universe. You guys have all this crazy technology going fast as hell through light speed. What about the other galaxies? You guys talk about the outer rim all the time. Just go a little further. What's past that outer rim? Just go a little further, see what happens. And so I'm so happy to see them finally diving into other galaxies because I think it opens up so many more possibilities. Adam, what do you think about this road to Thrawn and Ezra being revealed to be in another galaxy entirely? Where are they? Where do you think they are? How soon are we going to get them? I don't know. Whatever you want to talk about the map to another galaxy.
I hope so. Another thing Garrett and I were talking about, I have a worst case scenario that I'm afraid of for this show that I do not want this to be the case. So we've got 6 episodes left, right? 3 through 8. My worst case is we side quested up until episode 6, like Sabine and Ahsoka, and then we bring in Zeb for one, we bring in Mando for one, we bring in these other people for one, like side quest here and there. And then at the end of episode 6, we get Ezra and Thrawn. That they find them, they come back in. Episode 7 is a flashback episode to what they've been doing, and then the finale, episode 8, everybody that was on the side quest, they do this big team up and all this kind of stuff. That is like my worst case scenario. I do not want them to wait until the last 2 or 3 episodes to bring Ezra in. I think the story might kind of force them in that direction, at least because I know, like, I'm not expecting, Thrawn to be defeated by the end of the series. So, like we've talked about on our previous pods, I think he's going to be more of an overarching villain, like leading all the way into that big Star Wars movie they have planned. I'm not expecting to see him be defeated, like I said, but there's still plenty of room, even if they just show us what they're up to, like in the next episode. Like, you don't have to withhold that from us and then show it all in one episode. Marvel and Star Wars are both bad for that. Like, things that could have been sprinkled out here and there throughout the season to kind of give us a little more intrigue, waiting to kind of mush it all into one episode at the end. I cannot stress enough how bad I do not want that. I have absolutely no idea where they could have been and what they could be doing, and I love that. I love that. Anything that I can possibly think of, I just immediately am able to discredit in my own mind. I'm like, well, they could have been doing that. No, there's no way. Like, I have no idea how well they've been getting along. Like that Thrawn or the Ezra as Merrick theory. Everybody's saying, well, Ezra spent all this time with Thrawn. Thrawn's changed him into an Inquisitor. And then I'm like, well, that's complete bullshit. There's no way that's going to be the case. And then, like, there's so many different theories flying around with this that I haven't seen one that I was like, that's it. That's the one right there. So I don't know. I cannot. That's going to be like, that's the one thing they really have to nail, because that's how Rebel Season 4 ends. And that's like the big question that everybody has right now. Where are Ezra and Thrawn? That cannot be some like underwhelming reveal or anything. And there has to be a lot of detail that comes with that too. That's like, I wouldn't say I'm worried, but that's the one thing I'm like cautiously a little bit skeptical about, because it's just so important to get right. But oh man, it's whatever it's going to be. Like, I know, like, Filoni's he's gonna handle it with care, but it's going to be exciting.
dating back to the end of Mandalorian, we see the Shadow Council talking about Thrawn's impending return and these big plans for him to be the heir to the Empire. But that's kind of the interesting thing is, other than Sabine, it doesn't really seem like too many people care about what Ezra's been doing all this time. Klein, where does he fall into place? Your co-host from the Reckless Rebellion had a great point in our primer, talking about how maybe you look at some of the stuff from the Thrawn novels. If there's a Chiss civil war going on right now, maybe Ezra's helping him fight it because Thrawn convinced him that was the good guy thing to do, and they're now teammates after all of this. Where's Ezra going to come into place once he's back?
I mean, that's the $100 million question right there. I have my whole thing with Thrawn and Ezra is I think a lot of people are just like, yep, they're going to come back and everything's going to be fine. Like, not everything's going to be fine, but they're going to come back in working order just like they were at the end of Rebels. We keep asking where they are, but I think it's time to ask how they are. How long have they been gone? What do they know? What don't they know? Are we going to find them and they are just surviving? Like the two of them are like, I don't like you, you don't like me, but the two of without each other, we're done. It's over. And maybe they're not maybe this looks like, to bring another piece of IP that I absolutely love, it's going to look like The Last of Us, where they're just like living, like they're just every day is a gift, and getting to the end of that day is just what they're trying to do. And I honestly think that might be more likely to me. And I really actually like that, because we've only ever seen Thrawn with his arms crossed, twiddling his fingers, going yes. Like he's where he is one step ahead. He is the person playing chess and he knows your next move. But I want to take him out of that. Like, let's see what else this character can do. And I know in the books they have done that, but I notably don't read. So so Thomas will tell you that. But I want to see the two of them struggling. Maybe Thrawn's got a beard and Ezra's all beat up and they get there. When I think we actually see them, I have a feeling next week we're going to get, there's been like trailer footage of like a battle on that really nice forest planet where where Morgan does her magic. So I think we're going to get some of that. I think episode 4 is where we'll start to see them, but it will be more sprinkling. We'll get bits of them. To me, episode 5 is going to be huge. Episode 5 is Dave Filoni's only other directing credit on the series. And it's supposedly, according to reports, going to be quite long as well. I think that's when we get this, like, okay, it is time to go to where they are. And that's when we're going to get this world between worlds stuff that we keep seeing imagery of in the credits here, and that Dave Filoni is known for. I think that's where we're going to get all of these like weird, not multiversal, because I don't think that is a thing in Star Wars, but like sort of like dipping in and out of time and seeing these different flashbacks. And then it will be 6, 7, 8 where we are with Thrawn and Ezra. And I'm in agreement with you, Adam, that I don't think Thrawn can be kind of the bad guy of Ahsoka, just because there are bigger plans for him, but we can set him up to get there. I liked your theory a little while ago, TJ, was about how maybe we bring in Din and all that. What I think is going to happen is we don't see Din this entire time. This is Ahsoka. This is a Rebel season until after the credits of the last episode, when it is revealed, oh shit, like things are not as good as we maybe think we've left them. And we're going to need to let's bring the band back together. And we start to lay the seeds for that Mandoverse movie. But I think we actually start to see Thrawn and Ezra in episode 4 in little bits, where we're just kind of cutting back and forth.
It would be interesting. I do think if they're going to do anything where a main focus of an episode isn't Ahsoka and she's more of a minor piece, I don't think it would be an exploration of Din and the Mandalorian, his friends. I think it would be a straight Ezra and Thrawn episode, where it's like introducing where they were, what's going on, the state of where they're at. We still don't know where they are, and whenever they do come back, it's kind of like Garrett, our trusty co-host here. The Rebels are missing their Ezra, the Agents of Fandom are still missing our Garrett, and he brings up a great point in chat that we got to give the audience who haven't seen the Rebels a chance to see like full on scary Thrawn first. We got to give them a chance to see why this guy is such a formidable villain. And so the reason why I do think there could potentially be a Din appearance of one, just maybe he's with Zeb. But I don't think it'd be an episode as much as like a swoop in with his ship and be like, Hera called me for help. Something crazy like that. I don't know. But I kind of feel like we're referring to this as like Rebels Season 5. I kind of feel like Mando Season 4 might be Rebels Season 6. I kind of just feel
those are the words. Yeah, keep talking.
I kind of just feel like the live action universe here might just be an extended group of Star Wars Rebels in live action, and this is the new squad. There's multiple different squads, but this is the new group that's going to be fighting the rise of the Empire, the rise of the First Order, whatever you want to call it. But whatever's going to happen next week, we truly have no idea, and that's what I'm so excited about of this show, is it really could go anywhere. They've knocked it out of the park with the first 2 episodes, and I'm so excited to see where they go from here. You have no first-round pick, Klein, so that means you're not late yet. You got a few more minutes. Thanks so much for joining us, my man. Where can the people find you on socials, and where can they find your stuff?
You can find me everywhere. I'm at The Kleinfelt. That's TheKleinFelt. I also write each and every day over at thedirect.com, where we cover all the universes you know and love. And as you mentioned, I host a couple of podcasts, one of them called Reckless Rebellion, where we are doing deep dive, full point-by-point breakdowns of every episode of Ahsoka. And I host a video game podcast called Controller Club. So wherever you're listening to this right now, head on over there. We do very similar stuff, just only in the realm of video games.
Heck yes, and we're going to have a couple of Klein's coworkers over at The Direct joining us on the future here for some of our episodes. We got Matt Remke as well as David Thompson joining us in the future, and then we're also going to have some of our friends from Streamer joining us. Our guy Rob, one of our favorite Star Wars experts over at Streamer, as well as Aubrey coming to join us episode 5 of Ahsoka to break it down. So we got some exciting guests in the future. Make sure you tune in. Thank you to those who are listening to us live today on Twitch. If you're watching us on YouTube, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe, hit the notification bell. And those listening us in podcast format, thank you so much. Leave a nice 5-star rating. Adam, we got so much great content coming. Oh, one thing I almost forgot to plug. Here we go. Shout out to Aisha and Ryan holding it down at Fan Expo Canada right now in Toronto. So many awesome things that they're doing over there. Aisha's already gotten to see some really cool first looks at Ahsoka panel stuff, as well as some songbirds and snakes from the Hunger Games saga stuff as well. So make sure you stay tuned to the Agents of Fandom socials for the awesome content they're bringing at Agents Fandom on Twitter and TikTok, Agents of Fandom everywhere else. And Adam, what else do we have coming on the website? You just dropped another phenomenal review today.
Yeah, we had the Incredible Hulk review, part 2 in my full MCU Infinity Saga rewatch retrospective review. Part 2 dropped today. Everybody go check that out. And then we just have, as I mentioned earlier, but I won't miss another opportunity to plug, your incredible spoiler-filled review of the first 2 episodes of Ahsoka and Layla's spoiler-free review of the first 2 episodes of Ahsoka. You guys did an incredible job with those. Everybody go check that out. And I know everybody's already completely quit talking about the movie, and it seems like we've written it off because they're putting it on digital in like 2 weeks. But we still have a ton of Blue Beetle content on the website, and everybody go see Blue Beetle. It's a really, really fun movie, and I know it would benefit them going forward and the character and stuff if everybody would go see that movie in theaters. So go do that, and then immediately after you get out of the theater, head to agentsofandom.com and search Blue Beetle for one of the many, many, many awesome articles that we have there.
Very well said. On behalf of myself, Adam, our wonderful guest Klein, no Ruben behind the scenes, because guess what? I'm Ruben from behind the scenes today. My very first live show production here with the Agents of Fandom. We had some technical difficulties to start, but we are going to end strong. Thank you so much for tuning in, and make sure you check out all the pods on the Agents of Fandom Podcast Network. Us, Ticket to Reality, Listen 3000, Fandom Academy, Cinema Sibs, once the studios finally pay the writers and actors what they deserve. Then when the strikes are done, Cinema Sibs will be back in action. And check out our awesome YouTube shows, The Critics and Comic Corner, because Damon has had so many wonderful guests lately, and those just continue to pile up. So make sure you check those out. Thank you so much. To everyone who live, we will see you next week talking more Ahsoka. Peace.